Hello! In this presentation, we will talk about how to write the cover letter. A cover letter does what the name suggests. It covers or introduces your CV and other application documents to a prospective employer or admissions committee. Instead of sending just the documents in an envelope, in the old days, candidates would write a letter to state which position they were applying for and to provide a return address or contact information. The cover letter became the perfect opportunity to highlight important qualities or skills pertinent to the vacancy and to add a personal touch to the application. This made it easier for the recruiter to remember the applicant. The same function has carried over to emails in our day. Make sure you put your best foot forward by writing a well thought out cover letter which conveys not just something about your personality and qualifications, but also your attention to detail, your ability to communicate, and your people skills. Let's now consider two different types of cover letters. The speculative letter is a cover letter that you may write to a company or institution without knowledge of whether there is a suitable opening. That is why it is called speculative. In your letter, it is important to indicate what kind of job you think you may be suited to in the company and why you would like to work for that institution. This type of letter is written in the hope that it will be archived and brought out for consideration when a relevant opening arises. The advert response letter, on the other hand, is for a specific vacancy advertised either in newspapers, professional journals, job search sites, or on the company's own website. It is critical that you indicate in your cover letter which position you are applying for specifically. So make sure to indicate the position title exactly as it appears in the job ad and include the reference number if there is one. A company may have more than one position under the same title or in the same field. Indicating the reference number ensures that you are considered for the right position and helps recruiters keep track of their communication with you. More on that later. In this course, we will be writing advert response letters. Now, let's take a look at the format of the letter. Cover letters are essentially business letters, and you should demonstrate your knowledge of the conventions of this mode of communication in your application. Conventions differ from country to country and even region to region, and using the style and format used in the specific region you are in will help make a better impression. It will also facilitate communication and help avoid misunderstandings, as we will see. Cover letters are generally a single page since they cover the documents you are sending. They should be short and to the point to save time. They should also be easy to read, so Times New Roman or Arial in 12 font size are good choices as the font type. Now, let's see some different formats. As you can see here, we have three different business letter formats: the block letter format, the standard, and the letterhead format. In block format, the letter block is justified. That is, the body of the text is aligned with both the left and the right-hand margins. In contrast, you will see that the standard and the letterhead formats are justified left. That is, the body of the text is flushed with the left-hand margin only. Notice also that some information is also placed differently in block formats. The sender or applicant's name and address, the date, the recipient's name, title and address, and the signature block are all aligned with the left margin. On the other hand, in standard letter format, while the recipient's information is aligned left, the sender's name and address, the date, and the signature block are on the right. Finally, in the letterhead format, we place the sender's, in other words, our name and contact information, in the header, That is, we center it and place it at the top of the page. But the other elements, the date, the recipient's information, and the signature block appear in the same places as they would in block format, aligned to the left. For the purposes of our course, English 311, we will be using the one on the left, the letter in block format. Now, answer the question. Now, let's take a general look at the different parts of a cover letter. As mentioned, the letterhead section, if there is one, includes name and contact information of the person who is sending the letter. In this case, that would be the applicant. Applicants who choose to use a letterhead should include their name, address, telephone number, and email address in a bolded font slightly larger than the font size of the body of the letter so that it will draw attention. Make sure the contact information you provide is correct and complete. Choose a number and email or address that you will be able to access during the application process so that potential employers or program officers will be able to reach you and communication is not lost. On another note, following the address writing conventions for your location is key for postal mail to swiftly and safely reach its destination. For the same reason, avoid translating your address. Postal workers who process the mail that recruiters may send you might not know the language you translate it into. Not to mention, it is easy to make mistakes in translating addresses. So it is best you leave your own address in the original language. When providing phone numbers, include a plus sign before the country code to indicate an international call. You may want to leave spaces between country and area codes or put them in parentheses for clarity. Here are a couple of examples. Let's now see an example of personal information provided in a personal letterhead. Note that the student has capitalized his name to make sure it is easy to pick out from the rest of his personal information, has bolded everything in the header so that it is set off from the rest of the letter. He has also followed conventions of address writing in Canada, starting with the most specific information, the student building, the street, and moving out towards the city, the province, and then the country name. The zip code has been placed in the right space. And the email and phone numbers have been made easy to read by removing the hyperlink and adding spaces between the numbers. If, however, we were to use the block format for our letters, as we should in our course, we would justify the personal information left and exclude the email and telephone number. Note that in this case, the information provided is not bolded and the address is divided into several more single-spaced lines. Let's now take a look at how to write the date. First of all, the date we put on the letter should be the date when the letter is written, or at least the date right before we post it. The other thing is to make sure we write out the month. So instead of 17/08, 2020, write 17th of August, 2020 with the month clearly spelled out. This is because in America, the month is written first and then the day. So the same date, for example, would be written as Monday, August the 17th, 2020 by Americans. As you see, the month comes first. In contrast, in other countries, the day is written first and then the month. Monday, the 17th of August, 2020. So, in order to avoid misunderstandings, it is best to write the name of the month clearly in letters. Let's see two examples now. In addition to the letterhead and the date, a cover letter needs to include the contact information of the person who will receive the letter. So we need to indicate the recipient's title and name, position, institution, and address on separate lines. For all this, we need to do some thinking and research. Who is going to be the recipient of our letter? The company director, the CEO, the head of human resources, the hiring manager, the admissions committee, a specific professor, and what is their name, the title of their department. The job ad or the graduate school announcement might provide this information, but more often we will have to do some research on the website of the organization or ask someone on the inside for the recruiter's name and position. Having the name of the person responsible on your letter will ensure it gets noticed. In any case, it is much better than "Dear Sir or Madam" or "To whom it may concern." You should include the recipient's title, if any, their full name, position, and department, and the name of the company followed by the address. This means in your research, you should not just look for a name, but also whether the person has a title, such as doctor or professor, and what their position in the company is. Finally, make sure that you have accurate information and check that you are spelling everything correctly. Please pause the video now to analyze this example. Now, let's talk about how companies and large organizations keep track of communications. Yes, usually they use a reference number or code to keep track of communications with different clients, team members, and new recruits. As we have said before, using the reference number of the job in the ad will help keep track of which specific position you are applying for, amongst other similar vacancies a large company may be looking to fill. That's why it's a good idea to include the reference number of the position you are applying for if one is provided in the job ad. This number of code is usually placed above the salutations with the abbreviation RE, meaning regarding. Here is an example for you. The next part of the cover letter that we are going to focus on is salutation. The salutation is the part that begins with "Dear" and is followed by the person's title and last name, as in the examples here. In cases where you are not sure of the gender of the person, do not guess and pick one. Instead, leave out the title and write the full name. For example, for someone with the name Deniz Kura, instead of having to pick either Mr. or Ms., write "Dear Deniz Kura." There may also be cases where, despite extensive research, you were not able to find the person responsible for hiring. In that case, you may want to use "Dear Sir or Madam," or better, "Dear Hiring Manager," but not "To whom it may concern." Let's see how the cover letter looks so far. As you can see here, we have started with the sender or applicant's name and address, followed by the date. Then the recipient's name, title, and address, followed by the reference number, and then salutation. Now, for the body of your letter. Business letters must be very clear and concise, so state your purpose in the introduction paragraph. That way, the person reading the letter will be able to decide when and how they will deal with the issue, and you will not be wasting their time. Address the following questions in a couple of well thought out sentences. Which position are you applying for? Make sure to indicate the website and the date the job ad was posted on. Explain why you are applying to that program or for that position, why you want to work for that institution, and what you have to offer. Here is a sample. Please pause the video now to read the sample introduction. Following the introductory paragraph, you have one or at most two paragraphs to explain how you fulfill the requirements in the job ad. You should choose the most relevant and outstanding qualities and skills you possess that prove that you are a good match for the position or program you are applying to. In order to do this effectively, study the requirements section of the job ad and identify the traits that are required. Then make sure to indicate how you meet those requirements. Provide concrete, specific evidence from your background, giving as much information as possible with as few words as possible. Following these paragraphs comes the closing paragraph. The closing paragraph sums up your letter and tells the reader what the applicant expects will happen. This may be that the applicant will contact the recipient of the letter, or you may choose to indirectly suggest they contact you by saying you are looking forward to hearing from them somehow, perhaps even an interview. Remember to thank the recipient of the letter before you sign off. Now, let's look at the conclusion paragraph of this cover letter. Please pause the video now to read the conclusion and answer the question. We need to end the letter with a valediction. This is the part where you signal the end of your letter. Sincerely or yours sincerely is a common way to end such a letter. Let's say a few words about the next part of the letter, the signature too. Your signature should be placed under the valediction and above your typed full name. A signature, by definition, is your full name and it should be legible, contrary to popular belief. In order to ensure it is not a photocopy or a fake, business letters are signed by hand with either black or dark blue ink. Remember to leave at least 2 lines empty between the valediction and your typed name to sign your cover letter before putting it in an envelope. The last section of the cover letter indicates the documents included with your cover letter, in this case, a CV. But you may also add your transcript or certificates as needed. Use the abbreviation ENC followed by the name of the document that you enclose to ensure the recipient of the cover letter is aware that there is an attachment to the letter. Here is an example. Here is what the valediction, the signature above the typed name, and the enclosure looks like when put together. And here is what the letter looks like. Now, answer the question. Here are some pointers for an effective, professional-looking cover letter. Follow the conventions for business letters in terms of format and expressions used. Pay attention to margins, line spacing, and justification for a neat look. Check that there are no content, language, or spelling mistakes. Use a variety of sentence structures to avoid monotony that arises from talking about yourself with the pronouns I and me repeatedly. Be original. Recruiters read hundreds of cover letters. Make sure you have found your voice and style and that you are not copying someone else. Remember, you are unique. Finally, avoid sounding arrogant, too flattering, or pleading with the reader to hire you. Editing and revising your cover letter will be key in achieving a good result. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for listening.